session. Thank you. So we have reached, and this has happened recently, till the last, I think, 5 years back, if I think about the situations were not necessarily like that. But nowadays, we see a lot more confrontation with the parents rather than interaction with the parents. This has to change. And who can change this? So we cannot change anybody else. It's a very popular saying. We've heard it so many places that you can't change somebody else. You can only change yourself. I can only change myself. I can only introspect and say, okay, how do I change my communication? How do I change my thinking process and my communication, or my way of talking to the parents, so that we are always on the same page? At the end of the day, parent wants the best for his or her child. I'm going to put everybody on mute. At the end of the day, the parent will want what is the best for the child. You will want what is the best for the child. Is there any teacher who will not want what is best for the child? Anyone? You can raise your hand and tell me. Do you agree with me that we will always want what is best for our children? Yes, we can do a thumbs up, a quick thumbs up, everyone. Who all agree with me that we always want the best for our children? Whatever is the best. We never want to say that, okay, जो होता देखी जाएगी, ऐसा नहीं होता. So how can we make these interactions more effective? So we have with us today Ms. Ruma Purkayastha, who's an experienced educator, who's been a principal to Navy Children's School for more than decades, and who's interacted with parents more than any one of us can ever imagine and think of. So she comes from a place where she knows how to interact with parents, how to manage them, and how to communicate in a way where it can go as a win-win situation for you and the parent, and most importantly, the child, who's the core, who's the center of everything that we are doing today. Ruma ma'am, welcome to this session. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'll just make you the co-host. So I had to mute everyone because otherwise, ma'am, you can unmute now. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Himani. And thank you all of you for coming in, as I always say, on a Saturday afternoon. It just shows your commitment to what you are doing. Yes, what I was listening to, Himani, I agree that there has been a change in the way parents deal with us. So let's let's see how best we can work that out. As she said, it'll be an interactive session. Please feel free to ask whenever you wish to. I'll just share with you my thoughts and then we'll go on. Now, at the very outset, I'd like to share with you that whenever I have met teachers and I have asked them, what is your biggest problem that you face? And believe you me, without exception, I have heard parents as the answer. It wasn't always like this. I don't think I was a parent I was a parent who harassed my children's teacher. I don't think so. My parents, of course, never did. In fact, our children grew up with this thing that I better not get onto the wrong side of the teacher. She'll complain to my parents and then I've had it. But sadly, it's changing for various reasons. And I personally feel that we are not allowing children to develop a sense of personal responsibility. Because we are spoon feeding them, we are giving them everything. The moment the two kids have a fight, the parent is there to look into it. When is the child going to learn to stand and fight for himself? As a stray example. So, and of course, today the child is never wrong. Nobody is ever wrong. It's always the teachers who are at fault. So this is the scenario in which, of course, there are exceptions. It's not 100%, but I would say 70% it's become like this. So that's the scenario in which you are working. Now that can be quite tough. So let's see how best we can work around that and see. Do you all face situations like this?
Let's quickly see in the chat box. Yes, no, maybe.
Do you face situations like this? Yes, parents are too overprotective. I agree. Tackling parents is a skill more than teaching. I completely agree with that. Yes? All right.
Yes.
I think by and large, to some extent, it's true because they've become, when the moment there is a PTM, we are more worried about certain issues.
Certain parents,
Certain parents, of course, we're more worried. So we'll see how to work around that. Shall we go ahead? Okay.
And so, towards this scenario, my first question is if you could highlight some general challenges that both parents and teachers face, both ways, parents as well as teachers, they face
Okay.
very general and common challenges.
So, you see, for teachers, I think there are lots of issues. I've listed out a few of them. I think the first thing that is that in the classroom, they have got varied kinds of learners. There are learners with different learning styles. So, to have 35 children with 35 different learning styles is by itself a mammoth task. Now, even lack of effective communication, I have written. Now, by effective communication, I am referring to the fact that a lot of children, because they're overprotected, they really don't know when they should ask for help. That's important. I mean, and there's nothing wrong in asking for help. That's where the first block to communication comes. Now, for a teacher, even if she understands that, she's also teaching multiple grades. So by the time she gets used to, I think all of you there in the audience would agree, where you go into one class, you get to know that class, by then you go to another class. At the end of the day, you're teaching 4 or 5 classes. It's difficult to get to know every child personally in every class. It takes you a good 2-3 months to do that. Then there are other things, and by the time the session is over. So that's another thing. Changing technology, yes. It's, learning the latest technology. Now, the latest technology may not always be the best. But because it's the latest and because the market is full of vendors who sell you the best possible thing, very often schools get caught in that. So that's another challenge that teachers have. Of course, school administrations have put a lot of pressure on teachers because schools are by themselves competitive. They, they want to do the best. They want to have the latest technology, etc., etc. They want the best results. So that's another thing. Now, there is the whole concept of lesson plans, and now we are all talking about engaging lesson plans. So it's a big task for the teachers to work on that. There's no way that we can do away with behavior and classroom management. There's a lot of clerical work that we do, a lot of grades that we fill in, a lot of marks that we give, a lot of percentages that we calculate, etc., etc. So I've called that time-consuming administrative task. Lack of funding may or may not apply to you, depending on the kind of school it is. And I personally feel that with all these challenges, we tend to face a concept called burnout, which is basically when you get drained after doing a lot of work, when you don't feel like going to school, when you feel demotivated. We all go through it. It's not that we don't. But when it becomes too much, it's burnout. Now, if you ask me, Mane, I think there are many more challenges, but I think these are some of the main challenges that the teachers.
So, I see the teachers also, yes, including myself today. So we also, there are so many things. I think I take your point there where you're saying increasing technology and all of this. So we also, keep on. I have not thought about this till now when you said that over the last 1.5 years, ever since I think NEV came in, we said, learn this, we should do this also, we should do this also, we should do this also. So at the end of the day, probably there is so much of things that we should be doing that actually when we come back to and say that what actually should be done, that takes the back seat and all the other things are taking the front
seat. You see, teachers, at the end of the day, we are all human. So, and we are all being pulled in multiple directions. And it's not that, and here, we talk about mental well-being, we talk of lack of stress, we talk of, time management, we talk of this management, that management, but there are 24 hours in the day. There's so much work to be done. So obviously, it's a huge challenge that teachers have. And of course, we will come to how parents can be so and so demanding. We'll come to that as we go on.
So, ma'am, one thing I feel, and I would like to add here is that probably, amidst all that we are training the teachers on, all that we keep suggesting, I know NEP is in place, I know experiential learning, and God knows, I mean, this is the whole, I'm also running out of thoughts. There's a whole lot of things, right? So is it okay if teachers decide that, all right, this year, this academic year, I'll focus, let's say I'll focus on this, or maybe the first semester, I'll focus only on this particular thing that I have learned in one of my trainings, or I've learned or read somewhere
No,
about.
I get your point. That's very valid, and that's how it should be done. But unfortunately, that's not a decision that the teacher herself takes. See, that is a decision that the management has to, and when they do take this decision, there has to be support from whoever is the manager there. But that would be an ideal situation, that if 10 things have been asked of me this semester, let me look at this. Next semester, I'll look at that. So that way we do, maybe I won't do 10, but maybe at the end of the academic session, I would have at least done 4. Next
Right.
year, I will be able to do a lot more. But
Right.
instead of that, what we tend to do is do this, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Everything together.
And a lot depends on how much of hand holding is also done for the staff. It's one thing to attend a workshop where an expert comes and talks, and it's another thing for an expert to be in school and to hold that and actually guide the staff as to what and where is to be done. I think that's something that the school managements have to look at.
So, ma'am, with all of this, do you think this is the source of tension or conflict, and how do you deal with this conflict? This is a conflict not only between the parents and teachers, but everywhere.
See, I feel, like I've always had parents say things like, what kind of homework did the teacher give? It didn't challenge my child. Another parent will say, what is this? No homework is coming. Another parent will say, my child said you raised your voice. Why did you raise your voice while talking to my children? Common things that happen, but they're not nice. I mean, you're questioning the teacher all the time. So I feel that, whenever there is a difference, I've written that here. Whenever there is a difference between the parent's viewpoint and the teacher's viewpoint, there's going to be conflict. I've called it tension. I've not called it conflict.
This is actually tension.
Yeah, because it's something that the gnaws on you, when you're in the classroom. It's one thing to sit and say, and another thing to be in the classroom. And generally, when there's no direct communication, the whole thing is misunderstood, and then a minor thing can escalate into something which could have been well avoided. Now, basically, what happens with teaching style and discipline? Now, if the teacher is traditional, some parents will say, but this is what is this? This is a very old method that you're using. If you're being very modern and using something else, there'll be some who will be unhappy. Discipline is a very thin line of difference. It's a very thin line that teachers walk. Because now we've reached a point where we really don't know what to discipline and what not to discipline. Because everything and anything, everybody is up in arms. So it's just becoming more and more difficult. Now, one thing that we all have to understand is that in all professions, there is conflict. Everywhere there's conflict. But when we are dealing with human minds, when we're dealing with children, there's bound to be conflict. And what we need to understand is how to solve and go around the conflict. Because we cannot really stop the conflict. We can't walk into people's homes and tell them, look, what you're doing is wrong. Now, miscommunication with parents is another thing that happens, because parents often misunderstand the teacher's intentions. You may have sent out a mail that I'd like to meet you tomorrow without any intention, just a normal face-to-face meeting, but some hidden meaning will be attached to that. So we have to be very clear when we send out messages as to why we want to meet them. And it's important to open up about things in class, open lines of communication. We should keep lines of communication open with the parents. Now, students' ability in class. You as a teacher know the child's ability, but the parent has some other expectation. That's another source of conflict. Then, of course, the famous thing is, but my child does it at home, doesn't do it in class. That's another source. This is very common. At home, he does it, ma'am. I don't know why he doesn't do it in class, because it's your fault, no, as a teacher. Now 40 children in a class. Yes, somebody has written very ambitious parents. I completely agree with you. I'll come to that again. Now, poor grades in attendance. Somebody's already got poor grades, which is a source of tension for whatever reason. I'm not going into the reason. It's a source of conflict, because a parent will say, I'm sending the child to school. What are you teaching? The child is not doing well. They won't come to school. There'll be poor attendance. You try telling them that your child's attendance is less. They'll give you a medical certificate.
Or even they'll tell you कि मैम वो आना ही नहीं चाहता.
हाँ,
I don't
आना
know
ही
what
नहीं
is
चाहता,
happening in the,
that's
मुझे नहीं पता कि क्लास में क्या हो रहा है, मेरा
क्या
बच्चा
हो
तो
रहा है,
आना ही
मैं
नहीं
आना ही नहीं चाहता. So, these are the day-to-day things. And of course, we have lots of overbearing helicopter parents who are over-involved in their children. Now, when they're over-involved in their children, obviously there's going to be conflict. So, and if I come to how to deal with it, of course, we'll come to that later. But majorly, these are things that create conflict in a child. The kind of parenting that happens, and then, of course, it becomes a source of conflict between the teacher and the parent, and the onus is more on the teacher to solve it than on the parent, which is very unfortunate. But that, as I said, unfortunate, but it happens to be true in today's world.
Ma'am, so far we've said that poor teachers and managements are bad, parents are overbearing, but I'm sure
No
there's a
one is
perspective.
bad. Let's not use.
But
But
I'm
it's
sure
a tough
parents'
job. It's a
perspective,
tough job.
it's a tough job, and there must be a parent's perspective also. I mean,
Yeah.
if I want to understand that, why are they doing what they are doing? I'm
Definitely,
sure
there's a parent
there
perspective.
is a parent perspective also. And
Yes.
I think handling and dealing will become easier if I'm able to even get a glimpse of
Yeah.
the parent's
Okay.
perspective.
Yeah. So with parents, let's see where they are coming. What are the challenges they are facing in their homes? Children are back talking. Children are not listening to them. They are throwing tantrums, aggressive behavior, violent behavior, poor eating habits, junk food. They're lying, playing truant, missing classes. Right now, we're only talking about the little children. So I'm only looking at this. I'm not looking at the ones that the senior children can do. Now, we are not even getting into why this is happening here. But this is what they are dealing with. Now, if you look at the parents, now, these are issues in their day-to-day lives. But at the same time, a parent is trying to balance his family and career. Those are the dynamics that the parent is also in. The parent is playing multiple roles. Let me go to the next slide. The parent is playing multiple roles. The parent is also pushed in different directions. A parent today is very scared to say no to his child, his or her child. Because one hears so much, words like trauma, words like harassment, these have become very common. They're being used out of context, I feel.
And this, I think, teachers,
yes.
and I'm so sorry, ma'am, if teachers, if for once, try and understand this perspective as a parent yourself, because a lot of you are parents and you're working.
Yeah, so what happens is, they are scared to say anything to their children because they don't know. And, every second day we read about various unpleasant things. We learn, we see. So everyone is scared. Yes, fear of going into depression, jumping off a cliff, etc., getting into all kinds of things, crime, this, that. So they're scared. They're working, they're trying to balance their family and career. They've got multiple roles to play. And even their careers are not any less demanding. They're also very demanding. They still they have to find time. We are living in a culture of blame. I like to call it the culture of blame because everybody is blaming another one. Now, their main perspective in life is to give their children quality education. Now, quality education again depends on what the parent understands from quality education. A lot of parents think because I've sent my child to so-and-so school and I'm paying so much fees, it's going to be the best. Fair enough. That's the parents' take on it. We are no one to say anything. But to be able to understand what is quality education and how much a child is capable of, that's important. And there is an overload of information in a parent's life also. There's WhatsApp, there's Google, there's TikTok. I can't even name them. Facebook, so many social media platforms. Now, everyone is talking. How do you discern what is right and what is not right? Look at
there are so many
WhatsApp
parenting gurus
forwards.
nowadays. There's so many parenting gurus.
And look at WhatsApp forwards. They'll come to you, which may be completely something that's happened 10 years ago and etc. So one has to be very cautious. So there's an overload of information. Now here I'd also like to say that parents are also professionals. If you as a teacher are a professional, so are they. They also have schedules that they have to meet. So they have to work around their schedules. There are demands on them. So and you see, for every parent, the child is prime.
It's just
I
one child
always
for a
say
parent.
there's one child for a parent. So if you have 35 in your class, you have 35 best children. Of the parent, every child is best. And unlike trainings that we go through to become a teacher, to become a doctor, to become this, there is no training for parenting. You learn parenting as you go along, but you are expected to be an expert from day one. So you're an expert on your child. So that's the mindset that the parents have. And with all this, with balancing, with both parents working, family being afraid to say no, so they're also stretched. They're also worried. So just try and understand where they're coming from. It would help you to understand them better. By no way am I denying that you are stretched, but they are also stretched. At the end of the day, the goal is the same. They want the best for the child, you want the best for their child. But still, we get into these loopholes.
But ma'am, I'm sure there are different kinds of parents. I mean, not every
Yes,
parent is alike. I mean, there are
absolutely,
difficult
ma'am.
parents, and there are parents, like you said, there's an overload of information. So there are parents who'll listen to everybody, and
Yes,
then they'll not know anything, but they'll want to do.
they listen. There are
So
lots of, yes, ma'am. I'd like to share this. We have, I like to put them into these different categories. We have the parent as a boss. I like to call this the executive parent. Now here, there are very clear do's and don'ts. The parent leads, the child follows. The parent listens to teacher's feedback, tells his child, and the child does exactly what is expected. All very good. No one's looking at emotional upheaval. No one's looking at anything. A very executive, very corporate way of functioning, bring up your child. Now, the teacher here, if you understand this, you would go further and you would emphasize the child's strengths. Why bring out the child's strengths? Because they love to listen to encouragement. So even if you have something negative to say it in a nice way, which I'm sure all of you do. So we have parent as the boss. He or she rules the house. The unavailable parent, they have so many of them. I like to call these the missing in action parent or the ghost parent. They're hovering in the background, but they are not available for anything and everything you call them for. They're always busy. It could be work, it could be another child in the family, it could be family issues, anything, but they are just not there. Now, it becomes very difficult to tap parents like this. So the onus then becomes more on you because you have to have some line of conversation, some kind of interaction with them. So I always feel that in situations like this, even if nothing is wrong, everything is going well, there's no harm in just dropping in a line, whatever is your mode of communication in your school, whether it's an email or a phone call or a message, just to drop in a word and say, how are you doing? We haven't seen you at school. Your daughter's doing well or your son is doing well. Just a happy note. It doesn't always have to be something negative. No, we can always, and believe you me, one happy message from you, next time you send a negative message will be taken more seriously. Then we have the mild parent, the very soft-hearted parent. The children can get away with murder with parents like this. I don't want to go to school, write a note, the parent will write a note. Anything and everything. So these kind of mild parents and children become over smart because then they take you for a nice ride. Now, partnering parents like this is excessively difficult because they're always protecting their children. Always. Not because they don't know that they know that their child is wrong. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they're so soft-hearted and they're so mild that they cannot take a stand. For whatever pressures. If it's the woman in the house, she'll say, my husband will get angry. If it's the husband, whatever. I mean, there are various dynamics in different homes. So we have the mild parent. And I think the best thing that works with parents like this is if you meet them face to face. Pleasantly, nicely meet them face to face and talk to them. Nice things, not so nice things. But these can actually ruin children, these soft-hearted parents. And it starts when they're small, and gradually as the children grow up, it becomes very, very difficult. The overall involved parent, as we said earlier, the helicopter. always hovering around, very concerned with the child's grades, everything. Someone has to explain to them that by doing this, you're pressurizing your child much more. So take off some of that pressure. Don't let that pressure cooker burst, because if it bursts, then it's going to be terrible. So take off some of that pressure, because if you take off some of that pressure, the student will automatically feel more confident and will flower better. Little pressure is required. There's no doubt. We all work under a little pressure. When Himani told me I had to take a session today, I also came under pressure. So a little pressure is required for all of us to work. But let it not be so much that the child loses confidence. And of course, we have the activity parent, as I like to call them, the after-schooling parent. They'll put their children into all kinds of classes. There's STEM, there's dance, there's drama, there's singing, there's art and craft. I don't know, piano, music, guitar. They're all kind of taekwondo, karate. So a child for 3-4 hours after school does this, and the logic they give you is because, ma'am, you are aware of the concept of multiple intelligences. There's a parent once who told me that I'm tapping all the multiple intelligences in my child. Very good. Great thing to do, but don't pressurize the child. No, 3 days a week piano, 4 days a week STEM, 3 days a week basketball every day. Where is the child? Sometimes children also need to learn to get bored. Count sheep on the wall. They need that. That's where the creativity is going to flow. If I'm constantly going to keep them, from one to the other, to the other, to the other, when is the child going to think? So, as I said, I like to slot parents into these categories.
Ma'am, I don't know which category these parents for this particular parent. I think the activity parent. I came across a student once, and I remember it was a young child, I think class 1 or class 2, very naughty. So he had a constant complaint that he's so notorious in the class and he's very naughty. What is the reason, if you can talk? So I talked to the child, and he was like, grumping and looking at me that another teacher, another question answer round and this and that. And finally he bursted after 5 minutes. He says, "Kya chahte ho? What do you want from me?" He says, "I wake up at 6 in the morning. I reach school at 7 o'clock. I'm rushed to take a shower, pack my bag, catch the bus. And then when I'm in school, everybody keeps telling me, ki, ab school padhne aaye ho, so you can't play here. Go home and play. Only study. Even if I'm talking to my friend, they'll say, keep quiet. In my games period, they'll not let me go because I've not done my homework." I said, okay. Then he says, when I reach home, 30 minutes, I have my lunch, then I have tuition. I come back from tuition, then I have a activity class. I come back from activity class, and then my mother tells me, have milk and go to play. He says, I have just reached the playground when she begins calling me because she feels she can't, I won't come back otherwise. So she gives me 30 minutes. अभी तो मैम गेम भी decide नहीं हुआ होता खेलना क्या है जब मम्मी वापस बुलाने लग जाती है. I come back and then she tells me, सुबह से खेल रहे हो स्कूल में भी यहाँ पर भी अब पढ़ो बैठ के, do your homework. He said, so I said, so then he says, then whenever I get a chance, I do something naughty.
Yeah, that's what happened, ma'am. You're absolutely right.
Poor child,
We have to give them that. This is something that we have to get across to our parents. See, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, I can understand the tuition pressures.
Right.
But not in early childhood. Definitely not.
Not needed. And that's why probably, ma'am, even the curriculum is being revised to make sure and again emphasize that let them have more area, more scope of learning through observation. Absolutely. Learning through, playway method rather than rote learning or things like that.
Yes, true.
So, ma'am, discussing all of these things, what would be the tips and guidelines to bear in mind while interacting with parents?
I'm sure
now that we understand this from every aspect.
I'm sure the audience here knows it all. I don't think, but I have penned down a few which I think would cover whatever. Please let me know if I've left out anything or something that you'd like to share. It's important to make a connection with the child and the parent, whichever way. First day they come to school, you get to know the parent. What's your name? How are you doing? Where are you working? I'm there for you. Have open communication with the child and the parent. Don't be critical. If a parent is angry, don't ignore it. One should not. Parent can be angry, but the parent cannot be abusive, cannot misbehave. That is not accepted. Don't make promises which you think you cannot keep. It's safer to say, I will look into it and make a little note into it, but don't promise because they'll hold you to that. Be very careful what you put into writing, especially in today's digital age. Be careful what you put into writing. Whenever you come for a meeting with a parent for anything, please come prepared. That is why in schools or in institutions where you have anecdotal records, where you have a system of regularly writing down what the child has done or not done, it helps when you have a PTA. Because you see, you cannot possibly, you're meeting a parent after 2 months, you won't remember, especially if you're going to so many sections. It's not possible. It's not humanly possible for your brain to remember. So come to meetings prepared. Please make sure that they understand that you care in whichever way. If you're there to talk to them, it's because you care. And there are little ways in which you can show that you care. Please listen first. We don't listen. We dive straight into giving our gyan. Talk later. Let them say, interrupt them if you feel you haven't understood something, but listen first. And if you feel that a meeting is not productive, end it. Especially if you find that a parent is not behaving properly or is not listening to you, end the meeting. If the parent says, I'm going to report you to the authorities, go ahead. But I will do so much and not more than this, because I, as an individual, will never tell anyone to accept disrespect. No, you don't disrespect somebody, you don't take disrespect either. So by and large, I think I will do more guidelines as we go along. Now we have difficult parents. A difficult parent can be critical, can be biased, can be anything, You have favorites, ma'am, my child is not your favorite. They'll say all kinds of things. They can be rude, they can be all kinds of, but not all parents are like that, but some of them are, and you still have to handle them. So I think one of the best things to deal with them is, let there be no surprises for them when they come. If there are issues that you think need to be brought to their notice, make sure they're aware of the issues before. So it doesn't come as a rude shock. Whatever you need to discuss, do it face to face. No, ma'am, we'll talk over the phone, we'll talk over email. No, I would like to talk to you face to face. And if it's very difficult, please alert authorities. Make sure you have somebody with you. Again, I'm repeating, listen and ask questions. When you ask questions, you'll get a lot of answers. And all of you are trained enough by now to ask leading questions to get your answers. All of you have an intuition that you can follow. And you know sometimes that, okay, this parent is lying. I know it that the parent is lying. Now, try and find something you agree upon. If there is a child who's not doing well at all at academics, the child is very good at singing or the child is very good at football, let's agree on that. But your child is an excellent footballer. But he sings so well. So there's something positive that you have agreed on. Find some common ground on which you can agree. Don't allow yourself to be pressurized. If you are confident about yourself, professionally and otherwise, if you are looking at your own professional growth, if you're aware of what you are doing or of all that is happening around you, you will not feel pressurized. It is a question of your own self-confidence. There is a difference between arrogance and confidence. We don't need to be arrogant, but we need to be confident. And again, I'm saying the same thing. Know when the conversation has to end. We've discussed it. We are not going beyond this. I'm a professional, you're a professional. Let's stop here. Yes, ma'am. Renuka has said, begin on a positive note. Parent feels happy, comfort level brings up. Absolutely. Absolutely bang on. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So agree on some common ground and then go on from there. And know when the conversation is over. If you feel that this is getting out of hand, all right, thank you very much. Let's not continue this. Now, parents, these were some of the things that I found when I was talking to people in the last few months. Parents feel that we as teachers don't communicate enough. Right or wrong, I don't know. I'm just sharing my observations. They have this huge thing about syllabus not being completed on time. Now, unfortunately, you would like to clear a concept, but you are bogged down by completing the syllabus. That's a dichotomy. You wish that you had that time to pull those two children out and sit with them and explain this concept. But if you do that, you've lost out on 2 hours or 2 periods or 1 period of your daily classes. So that's another issue. They feel you are biased. You may not be biased, but they have it in their heads that the teacher is biased. Teachers don't cooperate. They don't clear doubts. They demotivate students. Many parents, I won't say all parents, many parents also come to you with this perspective. They're balancing their careers, they're professionals, they have schedules, they have children who are back talking, lying, playing truant, etc., etc. And it's very easy for them to develop this mindset. So they're already coming to you with so much baggage when they come to meet you. Now, what do? You still have to talk to them. You still have to discuss things with them. So what do you do now? Let's figure out what is it. And you know, I always feel that some of the main worries that a teacher has in the class is that, do the students know more than me? No. Make sure you know more than the students. Your confidence level will be up.
Students and the parents now.
The more information, the more content you have, the more confident you're going to feel. You're worried about student welfare because that's become a huge thing. Sometimes you also worry about your own teaching quality because there are multiple ways of teaching, activity, multiple intelligence, visual, auditory learners. There's so much jargon that's going around. There is also a fear of making mistakes. We all have. But when you're dealing with all this, they're also worried, depending on the kind of atmosphere you have in your school. And of course, we all have this fear of coming back to school after a holiday. Nobody wants to come back to school after a holiday, isn't it? Sometimes we look forward to it, but most of the time we don't. So let's go on to what are some of the guidelines that we should be following when we deal with parents. Himani, can we have the next slide, please?
Oh, ma'am.
Now, the previous one. Now, I've listed out what I think all of you would probably agree with me. Be warm. Be gentle, be warm, be positive. Try and foster a sense of trust with the parent. Again, I'm repeating, I've repeated it right through. Ask questions and listen. Don't make assumptions. Oh, this parent is going to be like this. Last year also, she troubled my friend so much. Her child was in her class. Benefit of doubt, wait, maybe the parent has changed. You have to convince a parent that you're also the child is equal. Yes, ma'am, I fully agree with you. Communicate as often as you can. Make the parents feel valuable. You're an important asset of the school, sir. Please give us your suggestions. There's no harm. Acknowledge involvement. If a parent has helped you out for something for the school, please acknowledge it. Even though the principal would have acknowledged, the authorities would have acknowledged, but there's no harm in you saying it also, because nobody is more important to a parent than the child's teacher. Whichever authority may be there, but the main person to whom a parent communicates is looking at is the teacher. So acknowledge the involvement of the parent. Ma'am, the next one. You know, it helps to initiate conversation. Some parents will come to you, they will not feel like talking. They don't know what to say. They just come and sit. So initiate conversation. It will help you also to become more confident. Again, as I said, alert authority. If you feel that you're anticipating problem, listen carefully. Something, see yourself. I said, no, that parent troubled my friend last year, the whole year. Now, my God, this parent is coming to meet me. See for yourself. Maybe you will interact better with the parent. Maybe you won't have a problem even if your friend had a problem. So don't assume. See for yourself. Let the parent succeed. Sometimes it allow the parent to have the upper hand. Not on major issue, but on smaller issues. Yes, I think you're right. Why not? They feel nice. And you have nothing to lose. At the end of the day, you want You want happiness around you. Find common ground, again a repetition. If there is any issue, focus on academics. Don't talk about anything else. If the parent says something to you, do not take it personally. The parent is upset, the parent is ranting out at you. The parent, first of all, don't allow the parent to rant out. But if at all the parent has ranted out, don't take it personally. Okay? Try and see the positive, stay calm, still do your anger management techniques, folding your fists, counting to 10. Don't raise your voice. Know when to step back. End conversations, know when to step back. It's okay. Not more than this. Be firm. And understand that mistakes are okay. You as an individual need to understand that mistakes are okay. Make the parent understand also that mistakes are okay. Let the child also understand that it's okay to make a mistake. Heavens will not fall. As long as making that same mistake is not a pattern. Okay, so these were some of the things. I am sure you can add on many, many more. But this is, I thought, would become a bit the crux of what we do when we deal with parents. I'm open to all your questions. Please do write in or ask and try and answer them. We do have time. We've deliberately kept it small so that we can answer your questions.
That's true. And I think, ma'am, beautifully explained. And a lot of things that you just mentioned, which I strongly agree with, is that we need to know when to end the conversation. Second, everything falls back upon saying that you have to be confident of what you are doing. Be very clear. बहुत confident रहो. At the end, आप teachers हो. आप नहीं चाहोगे
class, absolutely.
Yes, yes. आप कभी ऐसे डॉक्टर के पास नहीं जाना चाहोगे. हम कभी डॉक्टर को जाके बोलते हैं कि नहीं सर ये वाली दवाई नहीं खानी, डिस्प्रिन दे दो. डॉक्टर कहेगा आपको पता है, मुझे पता है, जाओ किसी और डॉक्टर के पास.
Ma'am, these days I'll share something. I went to a doctor for my blood pressure and I said something and the doctor just closed the file and he looked at me and he said, Madam, फिर आप जाके Google से पूछ लीजिए.
Yes.
So I was thinking of that example because I burst out laughing. I said, doctor, I'm not. It was just conversation. I mean, he's a family friend, so it was different. But this is what happens, no? Everybody's looking at Google and finding answers. Doesn't matter. And if you feel that what the parent knows is not right, be confident enough to tell them that it's not like this, ma'am. It's not like this.
And if you feel that what they're saying is right, acknowledge it. It's okay.
Acknowledge it. Absolutely.
Nobody can know it all.
And here, I would just like to say there's a difference between being arrogant and being confident. A lot of people mistake arrogance and confidence. It doesn't help to be arrogant. You become arrogant when you don't know something. When you know something, you are confident.
And I am a lot of times, young kids, ma'am, teach you something. And I feel more happy. Rather, मुझे लगता है कि I am younger, I'm learning something from them. So it's always all right to feel that, okay, oh, that's interesting. I can always try that. Just tell this to a parent.
Many of you ask teachers, all of us who are here, I can see we're 87 of us here. Since we are teachers, we all feel young. Don't we, ma'am, sir? In the audience, let's get some answers from you.
Do all of you feel young?
Some answers, some questions. Come on, Himani and I can go on otherwise.
Thumbs up or something.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. So we've got some answers. We are youthful. Absolutely. And staying with young kids, it's full of fun. And you tell a parent at one point or a child at one point, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm also going to try it. Trust me, the parent and the child feels कि बस मैंने जंग जीत ली आज मैंने मैडम को कुछ सिखा दिया. And the same way you say, I'm sorry, I think I missed out that. And again, he feels that we've corrected the teacher. So it's a very big victory for them.
Yes, ma'am. I like this thing that has come in. Arshi Malik. Own up responsibility. Ma'am, would you like to tell us a little more about this? If you can unmute and come on video, tell us a little more about this.
I'll just unmute them now.
Own up responsibility, Arshi Malik. That's what I can read on the chat box.
Yeah, Arshi, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Ma'am, it was wonderful to be in this session. Well, I always share this statement with my teachers that one need to own up the responsibility. Like, the parents, they are furious. As you told me, they are all stretched out at their places. So I think we hold a very important, an important position there, because we
Yes.
can guide, because parents often come, ma'am, saying that children listen to teachers more
Yes.
than they listen. Yes.
Absolutely,
Listen.
ma'am. I agree with that.
So teachers can do wonders. Believe me, ma'am, a little motivation with a line, "Main hoon na," does wonders.
Absolutely. See, ma'am, the moment you do that, you have fostered a sense of trust.
Exactly, ma'am.
You
And
have
that
formed a
bond,
connection. What we
G,
were talking about, you formed a connection. You have
yes.
opened lines of communication.
And that bonds create wonders for
Yes.
the teacher and for the in charge as well.
And here I'd also like to say that you are all early childhood educators here, if I'm right.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the children are really small when they come to you.
Yes, ma'am. So
So,
I think
so,
so, yeah.
so
So
you
I
really, that warmth to greet them
You
with.
need to show like your own child, because
Absolutely.
at time, yes, the moment your mother wali cheese come into a child, believe me, they'll do wonders for you, and this happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So sense of trust will come only when you formed a bond.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Then you don't have to do these trust games that are played in various workshops that we do, where you fall back and the person at the back holds you because you trust the person at the back. I mean, one doesn't need to do all that if you've just grown up with trust around you.
Fine, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
When
Thank
you
you.
Very
love a
true.
teacher, you'll do anything for that teacher.
Yes,
I know
absolutely.
students who'll say कि अर्शी मैम इतने अच्छे हैं ना, मैं अर्शी मैम को अपसेट नहीं कर सकते, है ना. Young girls, tiny toddlers, they'll come and say, I
Yeah,
cannot upset ma'am.
so
If I do this, my teacher will get very upset.
so that's important for children to feel that. Yes, ma'am. Let's have a few more answers.
Yeah, Arshi ma'am, I'm sure you have. I could hear that when you, in your voice, I could hear that when you were talking. That's why I was reminded of this. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to share? You can raise your hand and
Let's
share.
share some of your experiences or some
Any
questions or whatever
questions?
you'd like
You
to.
can again raise your hand. I'll unmute you. You can ask. You can put it in the chat box. Either ways. So today it's more of a talking session, less of a gyan session.
The minute we respond to parents, they feel relaxed. This avoids communication gaps with parents. Absolutely. I agree with this. The moment you respond to their queries, they are relaxed. They feel they've got an answer. We go back to that same thing. ना उनका तो एक ही स्पेशल बेस्ट बच्चा है ना. तीन बच्चे भी होंगे तो तीनों बेस्ट हैं.
तीनों best.
तो आपके
Because
पास
they
एक
are doing the
best
best.
आया है ना. Yeah. One more thing, if you love the profession, you can do anything to improve. Yes, ma'am, we all need to love our profession. We may have come into the profession out of choice, out of circumstances or whatever. But the very fact that we're here, we need to love our profession. It should
And
not,
then
I feel it should not be a profession in terms of course,
passion.
salaries are important. Who doesn't enjoy the salary? But it should not be only salary oriented. That's
And
my
then you have to grow yourself. Ruma ma'am is one of that inspiration I have, and that even at this age, they're still learning and they're growing and
Yeah,
they're improving.
I learn something every day. Every day I learn something.
And every time I talk to her, she's like, I read something there, and I want to work on this. I'm like, yeah. And then I remember I said I'm younger than her. I should also read something and learn something every day. So
Oh,
learning has to continue.
absolutely.
The day you feel you know it all is the day.
This is very nice. Renuka ma'am, you've written teaching is eternal for me. Absolutely. If you have, and many times when you read something or when you experiment with something, you will find ways and means of using it in your classroom. And
We
when
do,
you
ma'am.
use it, you will know whether it worked or it didn't work. Unless you use it, you'll never know whether it will work or it won't work. So please read, grow, attend whatever you want. And when I say professional growth, it doesn't always have to be workshops. It can be anything. It could be, it could be a dance class. It could be learning a hobby. It could be learning anything that will help you to grow. It
Vinu ma'am
doesn't
says
always
this.
have to be the NEP that's going to make you grow. No, there are lots of other things that will make you grow.
Vinu ma'am says this profession helps us contribute to the future of the society.
Absolutely, ma'am. And as I have said this many times in the past, that we are, by 2030, we are going to be the country with the largest youth in the world.
Hmm.
So think of the human resource that we have, and they're with you. They're not with me.
Everything.
They are with you in the classrooms. So what a mammoth job that you have with you.
And Vinu ma'am, you know that feeling, I still can connect with it. When you've taught a student and he comes back after 5-10 years telling you, he touches your feet in the middle of the market and says, ma'am, remember, I am Ashish from your 2003 batch. You know, I'm in IIT today. Ma'am, I remember and I miss you so much. I mean, the feeling today also
That's
gives me
yeah,
goosebumps.
that's the learning. I like this Venu Sachdev, ma'am, you've written. It's a profession of creation, of learning, relearning, and unlearning. Absolutely. Isn't that what Alvin Toffler said?
Yeah.
Learn, learn, unlearn, relearn.
The illiterate, I think something like that. The illiterate who will not is of today is the person
The
who
literates of the world have to
Ah.
learn, unlearn, unlearn,
and
learn, relearn.
relearn.
Learn, unlearn, relearn. Very
Relearn.
teachers are learners. Attendance link, ma'am. They won the attendance link.
I am began looking for it.
No questions. Then I think you all are all excellent at handling your parents. Fantastic. I love an audience like this, which has, which we all are so good at what you do that I think you don't need any tips. Very nice. If you understand where the parents are coming from, it becomes easier to handle them. Absolutely.
Very true. Very true. And just a little, I mean, the crux of the whole session today, that let's understand the parents a little. Let us take them in our stride, and let's keep in mind that children are our focus. At the end, we want the best for them. It's not about you winning over the parents or the parents winning over you. That's not the question. The question is that it is both of you working together towards the benefit of that one child or every child in your classroom. So find that middle ground. It's your responsibility. You're the professional there.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think I've shared the feedback link also. I'll share it once again in the group. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, Ruma ma'am. Thank you so much. I think it was a wonderful interaction with everybody. And I hope everybody enjoyed and learned something from it.
I have one question to ask, ma'am, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like all of you to put in one takeaway in the chat box from today's session. Any one takeaway. We're 88 here. I'm hoping to get at least 50, 60 answers.
50,
Let's get a
60.
few. Let's get a few takeaways. Come.
Any one takeaway.
Any one thing that you think you've picked up from today's workshop, from
You
today's
remember from today's workshop.
Any one thing that you think you have, you're already doing, work as a team. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Communicate often, different kinds of parents. It's a difficult task. Absolutely.
Think. I'm sure everybody else is thinking, क्या याद करके लिखना है?
इसमें तो आप कर ही रहे हो. Be confident, not arrogant. Yes, please. Arpita ma'am, that's really nice for you to remember that. Listen first, then speak. Ask parents to speak first related to academics, how to handle parents. Yes.
What else? What else?
To end the talk is the best. Yes, to avoid heated arguments. Let parents succeed. Thank you.
Different types.
Parents, yes. I'm sure if parents hear this, they're going to knock me down. But I thought I could share with you.
Some more. Let's see some more. We have another 1 minute before we close.
We do have. I haven't overstretched time, no?
No, we have another minute.
Okay,
so
let's get some more.
Every time I commit the teachers that it's going to be a 60-minute session, we'll wind up in time.
The time is precious for us, ma'am. All the teachers. Listening to parents, ask questions, and talk about it. Okay, listen first, agree on at least one thing with the parents. Yes, ma'am.
Very nice.
Child is our priority, so let's work for them. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. So this just gives us an reassurance that we've delivered something good today.
At least some of you have some takeaways.
Yes.
Yes.
Listen to parents and give suggestions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think we won't answer your parents. That relaxes them, okay?
not agitates them.
Yeah. Yeah. Give them answers so they feel relaxed.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I've shared the feedback link here. I'm doing it once again, and I'll put it in the group as well, WhatsApp group as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ruma ma'am. It was a
Thank
very, very
you.
interactive
And
session.
have a good Sunday, everybody, before you go back to work. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Have a good weekend to everybody. Bye-bye. Take care.